Sarajevo, 1992. The siege is 4 months old. Snipers own every open street. Civilians are drilling through apartment walls with hand tools, punching passages from one building to the next, so a mother can reach a bread line without crossing an alley. The men and women who owned the drill bits became neighborhood kings. They didn't trade for bread. Bread was traded to them. 6 collapsed economies tell the same story. Venezuela, Bosnia, New Orleans, Quebec in '98, British Columbia in 2021. The pattern doesn't care which decade you're living in. When the loonie dies, your bank balance dies with it. Gold is too big to spend on a loaf of bread. Silver rounds are too conspicuous to flash at a checkpoint. You need currency that trades for a meal. 9 items, all under 20 Canadian dollars. All sitting on Princess Auto shelves tonight. Each one becomes trade currency within 48 hours of collapse. Most Canadians will walk right past these aisles. You won't. Start at number 9. Butane canisters, 8-pack, roughly $15. Each can weigh 227 grams. That's the specification that matters. It's small enough to slip into a jacket pocket. It's large enough to cook 3 meals for a family. When Hydro-Quebec drops, or BC Hydro blacks out the lower mainland, every household still needs hot food. Propane tanks don't trade. They're too heavy. They're too visible. A 20-pound cylinder can't move quietly between neighbors. The butane can does. Think of it as the small bill of barter. You don't pay for eggs with a 50. You pay with a toonie. A can of butane is a toonie with a flame on top. $15 buys you 8 transactions. That's the loonie of the new economy. Number 8. Nitrile gloves. 100 count, about $12. Venezuela, 2016 to 2019. Medical-grade PPE climbed into the top 3 barter goods across Caracas and Maracaibo. Not food, not fuel, gloves. Anyone butchering a stray animal, dressing a wound, or filtering contaminated water paid premium for a pair of nitrile gloves. Cloth rags fail against blood pathogens. Cotton soaks through in seconds. Nitrile is the minimum viable barrier between your hand and someone else's infection. A box of 100 is 100 transactions. That's 12 cents per trade. You won't find a cheaper currency in any aisle in this country. Number 7. Heavy-duty polytarp. 3 meters by 3.5. $15 flat. Every ice storm takes a roof section. Every prairie derecho lifts shingles like playing cards. Every atmospheric river flattens carports from Chilliwack to Hope. When the roof goes, the family inside has 48 hours before the drywall fails. One tarp does 4 jobs: shelter patch, rain catchment, cargo cover, ground barrier. 4 functions for $15. Cheap plastic sheeting tears on the first Manitoba gust. 3mm polytarp with reinforced grommets holds through a 40-knot wind. $15 buys the roof your neighbor will rent. Number 6. Zip ties. Bulk assorted bag, $10. Fence repair, gear lashing, vehicle jury rigs, restraint hardware for neighborhood watch rotations. 1 bag covers all 4. Rope requires knot skill. Zip ties require no training. Any 12-year-old can secure a gate. Any 60-year-old can lash a tarp. That universality is what makes a trade good valuable. The screw that needs no driver, $10, 200 transactions. Number 5. Paracord, 30 meters, $8. Here's the math nobody runs. Genuine paracord is rated to 250 kilograms of brake strength. Inside the outer sheath, you'll find 7 inner strands. Pull them out, and 30 meters of cord becomes 210 meters of functional cordage. Clothesline rots in a single summer. Paracord sits in a garage for 30 years and performs on day 1. Shelter lines, snare wire, bootlaces, sutures in the worst case. $8, 210 meters. One math trick most Canadians never learn. Now pay attention to this next part. Number 4 is the one most people miss. Carbide tip hole saws. $8 each at Princess Auto. Go back to Sarajevo for a moment. The civilians who drilled those passages between buildings weren't using rotary hammers. They were using hand drills with carbide bits on concrete and cinder block. An $8 bit replaced a $400 power tool, because carbide at 65 on the Rockwell hardness scale cuts through masonry that mild steel can't touch. Now bring that idea home. Walk through Mississauga. Walk through North York. Walk through the tower blocks in Burnaby or the student high-rises in downtown Montreal. Millions of concrete units with shared walls between them. In a functional city, those walls are privacy. In a collapsed city, those walls are the difference between a family that reaches water and a family that doesn't. A neighborhood with one drill bit becomes a neighborhood with secret corridors. Stairwells become optional. Sniper lanes and looted hallways become avoidable. The cheapest real estate reform in history costs $8 Canadian. This is the pattern break. Hold on to it. Number 3. Grease pencils, China markers, $3 each. January 98. The Quebec Ice Storm. 5 days of freezing rain dropped 80 millimeters of ice from Kingston to Sherbrooke. 3 million people lost power. Some stayed dark for 33 days. Hydro-Quebec crews and Canadian Red Cross workers marked inspected buildings almost exclusively with China markers, not Sharpies, not pens. As a ballpoint ink freezes solid at minus 30 degrees Celsius. Permanent marker smears on wet glass. Pencils shatter in gloved hands. The grease pencil writes on wet glass. It writes on frozen metal. It writes on soaked wood and bloodied plastic. It writes when everything else has failed. In a Canadian winter, silence kills. A house that can't mark its door as inspected, cleared, or occupied is a house the rescue team skips. $3. The pencil speaks when nothing else can. Number 2. N52 neodymium magnets. Magnetic parts trays. $5 to $10. After Hurricane Katrina, salvage crews with neodymium magnets recovered roughly 4 times more ferrous hardware than crews hand-sorting debris. The field data came in around 2 to 3 kilograms of screws, bolts, nails, and hinges per hour, per worker. Apply that to a flooded Calgary neighborhood. Apply to the burn scar north of Fort McMurray after the 2016 fire. Apply to any atmospheric river wreckage across the Fraser Valley. Every flattened building is a scatter field of ferrous hardware buried in mud, ash, and broken drywall. Hand-sorting wreckage is 16 hours of labor for a wheelbarrow of fasteners. Magnet sweeping is 4 hours for the same yield. A $5 magnet is a salvage economy strapped to a broomstick. N52 is the grade that matters. Anything lower pulls half the weight. Ask for N52 specifically, or you've wasted the trip. Number 1. The Apex Pick. 2-stroke engine oil. 1 liter, $6. Here's where it gets interesting. Chainsaws run on 2-stroke. Portable generators often do. The outboard motors on aluminum boats across every lake in Ontario and Quebec. Snowmobiles across the prairies. Dirt bikes, brush cutters, ice augers, pumps. All of them require a 50-to-1 fuel mix. 50 parts gasoline, 1 part oil. 1 liter of 2-stroke oil enables 50 liters of functional fuel. Screenshot that number. November 2021. The Fraser Valley floods. Abbotsford underwater. Suma's Prairie a lake again. 2-stroke oil sold out province-wide inside 48 hours. Gas stations across the lower mainland still had gasoline in their tanks. They had no mix oil on the shelf. That gasoline was useless for the chainsaws that needed to clear roads and the pumps that needed to drain basements. Regular motor oil destroys a 2-stroke engine within minutes. The wrong oil seizes the piston. The right oil runs it for 1,000 hours. $6 of oil makes 50 liters of gold. Nothing in the store outperforms that ratio. That's the list. 9 items: butane, gloves, tarp, zip ties, paracord, carbide bits, grease pencils, N52 magnets, 2-stroke oil. Run the total. The whole build comes in under 120 Canadian dollars. 1 trip, 1 aisle crawl, 1 afternoon. Here's the Princess Auto principle. The industrial surplus aisle contains more functional trade currency than any dedicated prepper store in this country. The people marketing freeze-dried buckets and $400 rotary hammers are selling you hardware. The people shopping the grease-stained shelves are buying subdivision. They're buying transactions. They're buying the ability to make change in an economy that no longer has change. The cheap, small, universal, that's the test every item passes. Cheap enough to stack in volume, small enough to trade discreetly, universal enough that any neighbor, anywhere, in any condition needs exactly this. Gold doesn't make change. Silver draws attention. Cash burns in the fire it couldn't predict. But a butane can, a pair of gloves, and a bottle of two-stroke oil travel quietly, trade instantly, and refill tomorrow. None of this prevents collapse. None of it replaces water, food, or a defensible roof. It doesn't make you immune, it makes you liquid. It makes you the Canadian who walks into a broken economy with the one thing a broken economy still respects: small, useful, subdividable value. You've got a choice now. You can walk into Princess Auto this weekend and build the kit for the price of one tank of gas. Or you can wait and find out what these items cost the week after the grid drops. Those prices won't be printed on any shelf tag. The ones who know shop the industrial aisle. The ones who hope shop the survival aisle. You already know which one you are, so tell me, which of the 9 is already sitting in your garage tonight? And which one did you walk past last time thinking you'd never need it?